In BMX racing, man, racers make mistakes all the time, especially at the races. And so in this video, I want to give you 3 common mistakes that I see racers do at the races, and that way you guys can avoid them and get the results that you're looking for. Let's talk about it. Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Tuesday night edition of BMX Coach Live. I am your host, 3-time Olympic coach Greg Romero here, coming from San Diego live. And of course, if you're watching this on the replay, make sure that you guys not only subscribe to the video, but to the channel rather, but also hit the bell notification. That way you guys get notified when I go live and when I post. We're doing a live show today. Today we're talking about mistakes. Can we talk about mistakes and how you can avoid them? Would you guys find that helpful in your racing? Let's go check out and see what's going on in the live chat here real quickly. JP from Canada, hey coach. Thunder Midget, Jacob James, what's going on? Roger says Team Samco in the house. Team Samco was actually my second team I ever was sponsored by. I think I was like, I don't know, 10 years old. That's Roger, Dylan McGann, Cale Thomas, Cruz Anomar. Who else do we have? Eli Booth, he says Team Croupy, so Southern Nevada in the house. Yeah, man. So we have Connor Nyland shows up. Man, we have an awesome group of people that always show up on Tuesdays, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Awesome community here on the BMX Training channel on YouTube. Man, if you guys ever get an opportunity, make sure you guys pencil it in and show up and join the fun. These guys are not only hanging out, supporting me, but they're supporting each other. And it's awesome because I'm supporting them, I'm supporting you, they're supporting me. It's all love. Man, I hope you guys are having an awesome week of racing. Man, a lot of stuff going on. We just had the Rock Hill Nationals a couple weeks ago. That was awesome. A major race that's coming up is in Georgia over here in the States. We always get a couple people from down under. If you guys are down under, either New Zealand or Australia, a lot of guys show up live. We always get about a half a dozen of these guys showing up live, making the live stream here. And if you guys are watching live, let me know how racing is going on down under. Hey, listen, can we talk about these mistakes, man? Man, you know, there's so many different mistakes. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I would love to say I've made most of the mistakes. There's tons of mistakes out there to be made. And I would say I've made most of them. I can't say I made them all because I would say there's probably new mistakes coming up. But I want to talk about 3 common ones and give you guys basically some bullet points, some strategy, some moving forward, right? In terms of how you want to look at your racing and your strategy. Now, I'm talking in terms of experts. I know we get a lot of newer and younger riders and intermediates and whatnot. And I would say this is totally going to be beneficial for you guys. Now, you know, I would presuppose that most of you guys are looking to move up in the higher ranks, right? Going from beginner to intermediate to expert. And if you guys are already experts, congratulations, man, because once you've reached expert, it only gets harder. If you guys are experts in the chat, give me a thumbs up. Let me know what class you raise. We're all interested. We're all interested. Looking at the chat, we have a couple people coming in. Again, Josh Bennett says, what's up? AJP BMX, awesome. Guys, welcome. Craig Martin says evening. Audrey says what's up. Man, I love it, man. So many people showing up today. Let's talk about mistake number 1. Let's see. Hopefully I didn't make a mistake and not come up with this properly. Here we go. Mistake number 1, not knowing your outcome. Duh. Listen, man, when you're at home or you're preparing for the race, I think it's important that you know what outcome you want, okay? What is the outcome that you want? And that way you start develop a mindset of what you want, right? You start develop a picture. If you're visual, then you start to see what you want, right? It's really that simple. Some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic, but the majority of us, we're visual. So we want to see what we want. So I think it's important that by knowing your outcome, it's literally that simple. Create a picture in your mind and know what that outcome is. Literally create a movie of what that outcome is. And it's important to get it to where after the result has happened, what is the picture after that? Okay. I think it's important to know the outcome, because here's the thing: if you don't know the outcome, then it's just kind of like going to a grocery store without a grocery list, right? What am I going to get? I don't know. Let's go down this aisle and figure it out. And sometimes that's cool. Sometimes it's not. Maybe some of you guys have showed up to the grocery store hungry and bought everything and got nothing. And I've done that. And also maybe perhaps you showed up to the grocery store without a grocery list and you were full, right? You were satiated. You're like, what am I doing here? Just turn around and leave. I've done that before too. And so racers at the same time, they'll show up to a race, and especially if it's like a big race coming up, and the environment is happening, right? There's lots of people, lots of energy, lots of action. The announcer's a little bit louder than normal. There's more groups, there's more racers that you have to race and contend against. And all of a sudden you've gotten lost in, what am I doing here? What is your outcome? So it's important that racers, for the most part, know their outcome. Okay. And so let me give you an example. I have a group of guys that I coach. It's part of my Winner Circle mentorship program. And before each race, for the most part, we always discuss what outcome you want. And it's crazy. Sometimes they know the outcome, sometimes they don't. And so my job is to help them develop and understand what that outcome is going to be. Because here's the thing: knowing your outcome is kind of like a pilot who is jumping on the commercial airplane, right? And he's messing with the dials, messing with the coordinates, making sure, checking on weather. He knows that he's going to fly from here, San Diego, and let's just say I'm going down under, down to Australia, right? I know where I'm going to go. I'm not just going to like, hey, where are we going? I don't know. Let's just fly the plane and just see where it takes us. Dude, you're going to run out of fuel. I mean, it's going to be a mess, right? You don't know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, then what a mess, right? And so, and here's the thing. I think for the most part, and let me live vicariously through when I was a younger racer, not knowing my outcome. I would say for the most part, I was probably pressured from sponsors, or maybe my parents, my dad, like, definitely making the main. I'm definitely making the main, right? But what place was I going to get? And honestly, as a kid, I think I struggled with, am I going to win? Because I knew I was capable of winning. But then there was a part of me that was like, maybe second, third, fourth, maybe that's just good enough. And, and it sucks because I think I was doing that because I wasn't, number one, I wasn't confident enough to win. And, by saying, hey, you know what, maybe I just want to get third or fourth, I'm just kind of protecting my ego, right? I'm protecting myself from failure. So I would say that it's really important for you to just go for the outcome that you want and just stick with it, right? A long time ago, let's see, 2008 Olympics, Mike Day, Jill Kittner. That race was tricky. That was the very first Olympic race in Beijing. Oh, I didn't even tell you what race it was. So 2008 Olympic Games, Beijing. Two athletes that I was coaching qualified for the Olympic Games. And even before that, I always drilled the mindset that, hey man, we're racing the Olympic Games. What we want here is medals, because at the end of the day, you don't want to walk out of the Olympic park without medals, right? That would just be, in my opinion, we wanted to set the standard high and go for medals because it was the first games. We never knew if there was going to be another BMX race in the Olympics following because it wasn't official yet. 2008 was an inaugural year. So I was like, man, it would be really cool to get a medal, and at the time I was like, I don't really care if it's, gold, silver, bronze, let's get a medal. And, we had a target. They knew the outcome. I knew the outcome, as a coach and these guys and our team. It was like, we had coherence. We were congruent with the outcome and what we were doing. We had a purpose. We had an intent. And I would say at the end of the day, that's the key to success. Most racers just don't know the outcome. Therefore, they don't know the intent of what they're doing. It's just like the pilot that doesn't know where the airplane's going. What's the intent? What are we doing in this airplane? Are we going to Europe? Are we going to Australia? Are we going to China? Are we going to Russia? Where are we going? We're going from San Diego to Oklahoma? I don't know. Where are we going, man? Let's figure out what the outcome is. What's our target? So it's always important to know the outcome. All right. Okay. Again, most BMX racers don't know their outcome. And if they do, usually it's something safe, right? It's something safe. So what I teach my winner circle athletes, just like I taught my Olympic athletes, go for what you want, right? Dream big. Go for it. Who is anyone else except for your unconscious mind or your programming to tell you any differently of what you're going to get, right? And so knowing your outcome, I think that's something that you should hold close to the vest, right? Close to your chest, close to your heart. Know your outcome here. And, you don't need to tell everybody. If you need to tell your parents, hey, this is what I'm going for and I need your help and I would like your help, I think that's fair. I think that's cool, right? All right. I think that's good enough, man. Know your outcome. Number two mistake, not warming up at the races, right? Not warming up. And so I would say this one could be physically, emotionally, mentally, right? Those three bodies. The physical body, which is the foundation. Right above that is the emotional body. And right above that is the mental body, right? These are really, really important. And so, yeah, man. Let's talk about the physical component, because I would say the physical component is going to help out the emotional and the mental component. So again, it's just kind of like the pyramids of Egypt, right? There needs to be a base before you could build up to the point, right? And so you have to establish that physical warm up. All right. So it's important to jump on the bike. I would say number one, when you show up to the track, get a 20-minute warm up in. Spend 10 minutes with a high seat post just pedaling softly, right? And then the last 10 minutes, maybe get a variation of different sprints every 2 or 3 minutes. Nothing crazy. It doesn't need to be 100%. It could be anywhere from, 60% to 90% of your perceived rate effort, right? Of your perceived maximum effort, right? And so what that's going to do is progressively warm up everything, right? All zones, okay? So cardio, anaerobic, fast twitch, all that stuff, okay? We want to warm up physically, and that's going to set the tone for your race day. I would do that before you practice. I used to do that as soon as I showed up. Like as pros, we'd always show up about an hour before practice, and that was always just enough time. Back in the day, we raced so much that we would practice on Friday, so we'd already dialed in the track. Saturday morning, we would show up an hour before practice. That was just enough time to get the bike out of the car, bring everything to the pit area, put our pads on, put our pants on, put our jersey on. Then, I would go off and do a 20-minute warm-up, develop a little bit of a sweat, and then boom, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes ready to go. Maybe have a swig of water, a little snack. Boom, I'm going to do practice. Then after practice, it's like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to race. And so I would say, whether you're doing local racing, whether you're doing regional racing or even grand national racing, when you show up to the track, get that warm up out of the way. Again, that's going to be part of your intention of what you're doing there in the first place. When you show up, it's not time to just like, hey, let's just go hang out, high five people, have fun. Listen, I'm all for that, but man, get the business done out of the way first. Set the tone of what you're going to be doing on race day. Get that warm up out of the way. And then from there, like another mistake that a lot of racers do, especially like Rock Hill, where they had 430 motos and the main event, some of my clients were racing after midnight. And, one of the things I gave them was a warm up protocol, which was, look, if you're resting probably an hour to 2 hours between laps, then you need to start over and warm up thoroughly for the next lap, because you're going to come in cold physically. And if you're cold physically, certainly the emotional and the mental is not going to be activated. So again, the physical component of warming up activates the emotion, sets the tone for the emotions to warm up. And then of course the mental, right? Because that's going to get you into that state. All right. Now, if you're a regular of this show, I love the mental component. We always talk about triggering yourself into the ideal performance mind state. And we'll jump into that, but I wanted to keep it more physical, right? Especially with this one, because I would say that most racers, it's like, oh, you know what? The moto's coming up. What do? They grab their helmet and they just show up to the back of the chute, shoot the breeze, put the helmet on, tighten up the pedals, tighten up the cleats rather. Or if you're on flat shoes, you redo your laces. You jump in the gate and you're cold. And that's a mistake. You don't want to do that. Okay. Give yourself, listen, I don't want to go big into the science of it, but basically, you're looking for central nervous system activation, right? You're warming up the central nervous system, which is pretty much the wires between the brain and the muscles that you need to do the movements. So you need to warm that up, turn it on, get a neural activation going, have a warm-up routine. I think it's really important. All right, cool. Is that fair? Does anyone in the chat room over here in the live chat, does anyone else here warm up? Let me know. What do you guys do for warm up? All right, so we're physically warmed up. Emotionally, we're feeling pretty good. The blood's pumping, everything's flowing. And I would imagine by then, mentally, you're starting to get into, you're starting to trigger yourself into the ideal performance mind state, right? You know your outcome, so you're ready to go. You're excited. Maybe you're a little bit nervous, but that's okay. It's no big deal. And then, you know what you need to do, right? From there, what happens? Maybe perhaps you go look at your moto, or maybe your dad comes to you and says, hey man, you got lane 3, this guy has lane 4, you got to get out. All of a sudden, man, you're starting to overthink this stuff. And it's like, dude, like, man, why can't racing be fun? Listen, sometimes racing's fun, sometimes it's business. And sometimes people just want to crawl back into their shell and crawl out of there, right? I've done it all. I've done all those, man. It's hilarious. But listen, number 3, the biggest mistake is losing focus. And so it's ideal for you to figure out what that ideal performance mind state is, right? So again, knowing your outcome, getting warmed up physically, getting warmed up emotionally, getting excited. And then number 3, the mental warm up would be getting into the ideal mind state. So here's the thing. If we do all those correctly and we still lose focus, then we need to take that feedback and we need to dial it back and figure out what's derailing us from staying in the ideal performance mind state that we have. Everyone has their own ideal performance mind state, by the way. You all do. And so what is it that's causing you to lose focus? Now, let's decide. Well, let's not decide. Maybe we could decide, okay? What does focus mean to you? Because what focus means to me doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as everyone here in the chat or anyone that's watching this on the replay. What does focus mean to you? I would say for me, focus means being in the flow, right? Just being in the present moment, not thinking too far ahead into the future, and certainly not thinking about the past. I'm thinking right here, in the present moment, right? Like right now, I'm doing this freestyle, right? I don't have any prepared notes. Sure, I have a couple bullet points. Number one, know your outcome, get warmed up, and number three, get focused, right? And so I know my outcome in this show is that I want to deliver you some awesome value, right? And come from the heart and help you guys, right? Because if you guys win, then I win. And that's freaking awesome. So I know my outcome and I'm in the proper mind state to deliver this live show without any notes. And so, what does focus mean to you, right? Because I would say sometimes people tend to think that like focus is block all the stuff out, right? And just focus on getting a good gait. Listen, man, if you got to do that, it's too late, because what you've been doing at home in practice, doing your gaits, you're doing that so that you don't have to think about it when you show up to the races. When you get into the gate and you hear that first part of the cadence, okay, rider, set them up. All right, whatever it is, right? I'm pretty sure today it's pretty much the same across. Back in the day when I was younger, we had different cadences in Australia, Europe. We had two different sanctions here in America. Now it's just one cadence that's just one world. But you hear that cadence, right? It starts, and then boom. From there, everything should already have happened automatically, right? Because you've already practiced it. So, that's the thing. A lot of racers just, they get focused too much on the gate. I got to leave on red. I got to leave on the first horn. And I got to do this, this, and this. And man, that's too much focus, right? That's too much narrow focus. You want to kind of like have a nice broad focus to where, sure, I'm definitely focused on the light, just like I'm looking at the lens here. But I also want to see that there is a guy to the left of me, right of me, and there's people in the stands. There's a first jump over here. The sky's blue, or or there's clouds in the sky. Whatever. You want to be able to train yourself to where all this other external stimulus around what you're trying to focus on is happening and not bothering you. Like, right, you're okay with it, right? I'm okay with this guy to the left of me and to the right of me. I'm okay with people yelling in the stands. I'm okay with the announcer announcing all the names. I'm okay with the cameraman coming across the gate and like at the Grand Nationals, you see they film every rider in every lane in every main. And I think that's pretty cool. And you could see it sometimes. People, they tend to lose their identity. They lose their focus. Oh, there we go. There's another one. And so we'll touch on that. Lose identity. And so that's the thing, right? You have to figure out what's the ideal focus for you. Now, that's not the only thing. You can also be excited. You can also be pumped. You can be stoked. But more importantly, you could feel empowered. You can feel powerful. You can feel strong. You can be confident, right? You can have all these different ingredients into your own custom ideal performance mind state, right? So you got to work on that, trigger yourself to get into that state and hold that state, right? To where when you show up into the chutes and you see a guy that may be potentially faster than you, he doesn't shift you out of state. You're still excited to race. You're still focused. You're still confident. You're still empowered. You're still powerful, right? That's the key. Then from the chute, when you get behind the gate, you're still in that state, right? Nothing has changed. You're still in that state. It's just kind of like, being happy, being joyous, right? And you're able to be happy and joyous, with your family at a night out. I can't even say it. Having a night out at dinner. Man, that was so hard for me to say. And I promise you, I didn't lose focus. But that's the thing, right? Like, so what happens is you lose focus because something triggers you, and then there's a voice in the back that says, hey, you know what, Greg, you're not fast enough, man. Like, hey, man, maybe you don't want to get hurt, right? There's all kinds of different things that could be going on in your mind that's trying to that's trying to shift you out of state and cause you to lose your identity. So that's the thing with identity, you know, knowing your outcome. Who do you need to be, right? That's part of the identity. That wraps back around to the beginning. This stuff you have to practice and prepare for weeks in advance. Know your outcome. Who do you need to be to get the outcome that you want? All right. When you show up to the races, warm up that physical body. Get warmed up emotionally. Get emotionally contextualized appropriately. Get into that ideal mind state. Hold that state. Even if something shifts you out of state, get back into state. Okay. Really, I should say, you know, losing focus here should be more like staying in state. So how do we reframe these all? Because, you know, again, the first mistake was not knowing your outcome. So just get rid of the not and focus on knowing your outcome. Like if you guys are watching this on the replay or you guys watching this now, just write it down. Number one, know your outcome. Number two, make sure you warm up physically, emotionally, mentally. Get into the proper state. And then number three, really should say stay focused, right? Stay focused. If you guys word these in a positive way, then yes, that's going to work better than going into a negative motivator. So write these down in a positive way as opposed to a negative way. All right. Well, cool. Hopefully that was helpful. We always have questions coming in from the chat. Man, lots of interaction going on here. This is great. I want to find out what some of these guys are doing in terms of their race day strategy. Do they know their outcome? Right? Do they know their outcome? Are they warming up? What are they doing to stay focused? Let's discuss right after the break. Hey guys, I have a question. What would it do for you if you could enhance your power out of the gate, enhance your sprint speed down the first straight, enhance your skills, enhance your mental performance mind state? What would that do for your racing or your kids' racing? If you're seeing the value of enhancing your BMX performance, consider joining the community of BMX Training Pro and get the same access my Olympic athletes have enjoyed, as well as thousands of BMXers all over the world. Some members use the access to improve their gate start techniques. Some also use the access to keep them motivated to train, and you'll find your reason when you gain access and join BMX Training Pro today.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now.
Nitro with the nice flow.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now. Let's go. Stay focused, here the heat come. Concentrate to the sound of the beat drum. Yeah. Start it up, take it back now. Check it out. This is how it's going down. Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, listen, if you guys, sorry, there was some feedback there. Guys, hey, listen, if you guys are finding value in this video so far and you guys want more, make sure you guys check out bmxtraining.com. Become a member. Go check it out. There's a 2-day free trial if you want. You guys go in there and check it out. Lots of training plans, lots of tips. There's more information to be had in there if you guys want to become better racers, win more races, kick some more ass, right? Hey, listen, we got a bunch of questions and comments coming in from our last presentation about the three mistakes. And yes, Lulu, please forgive me, Lulu Bejoy. Yes, need to warm up. Yeah, warming up is awesome, man. It sets the tone. Physically, you need it. Let's see here. Oh yeah, it looks like we have a bunch of experts in here also. Shane Hughes, 21 to 25 expert here. Thunder Midget, 41 to 45 expert. I Love Comp says 14 expert. Dylan's a 15 expert. And let's see, who else? Any other experts in the house? If you're an expert, let me know what class you race. All right, let's check out and see what questions we have. I'm looking for questions or any comments that pertain to knowing your outcome, warming up, or staying in state. But no big deal. We could definitely shift gears and burn the clutch and ask some of these questions and then give them an answer, right? Steve Everett, thanks for all your sound insight and advice, Coach G. I raced as a kid and came back to the sport 2 years ago after a 33-year hiatus. That being said, I really appreciate all the guidance. Yeah, man, there's a lot of guys. That's the thing with BMX, right? Like, we start off racing as kids, take a long break, and then the sport hasn't gone anywhere, and we get that itch, and it's like we gotta scratch that itch, and yeah, we end up getting back on the bike. I did that. I took 7 years off from racing after I retired, and I decided to race one race, which was the World Championships, man, and it was a lot of fun. Let's see here. It looks like a lot of guys are talking to each other. What else do we have? Any questions? Any questions or comments? Oh, here we go. Cruz and Omar. At Rock Hill, I started warming up 20 minutes before my main, a few lunges, jump squats, right around, and 3 to 4 sprints, 60 to 70%. Learn quickly from the pros there. Yeah, man. Basically what you're doing there is you're specifically doing a central nervous system activation, or otherwise known as neural activation, or just activation, right? And so you want to warm up those communicative pathways, right? It's one thing to just warm up the muscle, but you also want, like you said, you did sprints. I think that was great because you're warming up specifically. Good. Yes, and he said he learned quickly from the pros. And listen, man, the pros, they've been doing it a long time. They've mastered the sport for the most part. And, they're good people to model. And when I mean model, I mean, model, right? Like copy success, if you will. Whatever they're doing is working for the most part, right? That's modeling. Eric Rose says, what's up, coach? Always a joy to tune in. Right on, Eric. Shane Hughes, I need to keep my focus on what my first straight will be. Dude, Shane, let's talk about that. What does that mean, man? Tell me more. Let's talk about the focus. Let's get you dialed in, my man. Okay, Shane also says he's been warming up at the local races. He does 3 or 4 30-foot sprints before getting on the track. Then roll around and get the legs going. Cool. Here we go. Days Rock. How you doing, my man? Welcome back. Always supportive. Days ask, how much do you warm up on those 90 plus 100 degree weather race days? Man, I don't miss those. And, that's a great question because it just depends. Like the last time I raced, which was Rock Hill, and it was mid-July, and it was 100 degrees with 100 degree humidity. It was crazy, right? So again, what I did was, let me see your question. Okay, so you're just asking generally. So what I did was I basically, again, I did my 20-minute warm-up as soon as I got there, got that out of the way. And then, I think we got maybe 1 or 2 laps of practice. And then after that, I was ready to go. They were racing so fast, Days. I want to say they were racing anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes in between motos. Worlds is a whole different animal. Once you start racing every 20 to 30 minutes and you're in that interval time frame and it's unfolding like that, you don't need to do a whole lot of warm up. You're already warmed up, especially if it's really hot, especially if it's really humid. If anything, I'm looking for more recovery, right? I'm looking to cool down too, right? Like I don't want my core temperature or my external skin temperature to overheat because I'm burning more calories. I'm dealing with edema, which is like swelling, right? And so you want to be able to get the body cooled off, and that way it could start recovering. Okay, so what I was doing was, taking a towel and dumping it into an ice bucket, putting it over my neck, wearing a hat if I need to, staying in the shade, getting a fan, making sure I'm taking in my electrolytes, sodium, potassium, And I think even then I was doing even stuff for like cramps, right? A lot of pickle juice. There's a product called Hot Shot, all kinds of different stuff, right? But that's pretty much my protocol. Drink lots of water, but you have to make sure that mix is correct, right? Like you don't want to drink too much water, because you still need electrolytes. If you drink too much, get a sports drink. That's the best thing to do. I'm not going to get too technical on the nutritional side of things, but pretty much that's what I would do. Now, here's the thing. That's for the worlds. That's a worlds protocol. Really hot, really humid. Races are happening and unfolding quickly. So if you're at a race where it's a 90 to 100 degrees and there's time in between, let's say an hour or 2 hour in between, definitely want to stay out of the shade. Definitely, if you can. I mean, for me, I don't really care. I'll jump into an air-conditioned vehicle. Why suffer, right? But for warming up, same thing. I would definitely, if it's 1 to 2 hours, I'm gonna start my protocol of at least a minimum 20-minute warm up, right? Warm up the physical body, the emotional and mental. All right, cool, man. Let's see here. Kale Thomas, Coach G, do you recommend short sprints like 5 to 7 pedals when warming up? Yeah, I think that's cool. I think you can mix it up too. Not everyone has a box at the races. And 5 to 7 pedals, full cranks. Yes, absolutely. Could it be flat ground? That's fine. Does it need to be 100%? Not necessarily. I think at the end of the day, everyone needs to figure out what their ideal protocol is for warming up. What I like to do, I like to clip in both. Well, some of you guys aren't clipped in, right? So I like to be in a stand start position, both feet clipped in. And what I'll do is I'll find like a pole, right? I'll find like a post, put my handlebar up against the post, kind of get into that starting position. And then I'll just lead with the head and shoulders, begin my sprint, do something like that, right? Because what I like to do is I like to warm up my core as well, specifically for the ideal acceleration position. So, when it comes to your sprinting, you might want to think about warming up specifically body positional and make sure you activate specifically those muscles that are involved, right? Because that's the first thing for a race. You're coming out of the gate and it's a powerful movement. You're going to be in an acceleration position. Why not warm up that position specifically? Jacob James says, what are mini rollers good for? Okay, so mini rollers were pretty much developed for the elite guys at the World Cup races where, again, these World Cup races were like World Championship races where they're trying to run, I don't know, 150 racers, 25 motos in a 2.5 hour block, right? And so what these guys were doing, they were using the rollers to cool down, right? And then sometimes they would bring the mini rollers into staging and keep their body moving. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's just extra work. For me personally, listen, you have to figure out what is it for you when it comes to your warm-up protocol. I don't know if I necessarily need to be spinning in staging, especially if I've already done my warm-up. I've already done my warm-up, my practice, first moto, second moto. Like, dude, I'm warmed up, right? I'm ready to go. I'm jacked. I'm stimulated. I'm activated. I don't need to be doing more work, right? So some people, they just might want to move, right? If they're in staging and they need a pair of rollers and they have a bunch of energy and maybe they're nervous, they just want to move their legs. I don't see any shame or any harm in doing that, as long as that, you're keeping it really, really low cadence, right? Like it's not making you break a sweat. You're just moving and staying warm. JP says, I think I have a good routine, good warm up, few gates start to learn the track. And for my focus, I usually see different scenarios in my head, but what I'm missing is being coached at the races. I think at the end of the day, JP, you're spot on. And I would say with the last thing you just said, you could coach yourself before the races, right? 2 weeks in advance, know your outcome, decide who you need to be to get that outcome. It's really that simple. And then when you show up to that race, Be that person that you decided to be. The hardest thing that anyone, and I've made this mistake plenty of times, one of the hardest things for anyone to do is to decide on an outcome, who they need to be, and then bail on the idea and just throw it out the window, right? Like, oh man, you know what? That's not who I am. And I say BS, man. If you program yourself every day and you have that picture in every day, and you're writing down who you are every day, you're working on the visual, your self-talk of who you are every day. You're writing it down. Listen, you're getting you're getting the three modalities that are most important in programming your unconscious mind, which is visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Visually, the movie; auditory, that self-talk; kinesthetic, writing down in a journal, right? Having faith. You know, like at the end of the day, man, like it's all about going for it, right? Like when you decide on an outcome and you decide who you need to be to get that outcome and you stick with it, if you stick with it, even if you have these voices in the back of your head or something that you see, hear, or feel like that says, you know what, that's not you. You know what? Say screw that. Get back into the state. Don't dissuade from what you want, right? Keep going after what you want, because the worst case scenario is you're going to get feedback. If your goal or your outcome is to win that race and you don't win, okay, then you can get the feedback. At least you went for it. You don't want to show up to a race, right? Have this grand, awesome outcome that you want. Bail on that plan, that strategy, and try to play humble guy in your mind. No one cares. No one even knows. Only you. And you end up doing shitty anyways. You're going to be upset. That's going to be a long trip home. I don't care if it's a local race or if you got to fly 12 hours, from Australia. I say know your outcome. Don't dissuade from that. Go for it. What do you have to lose if you do all three, right? If you don't get the outcome you want, you're going to get the feedback. That feedback's only going to make you better, right? The ideal with racing is that we're always spiraling up to try to get better. It's just like it runs parallel with our life path, right? All right, cool. Andy Lim says, hi, Coach G. Hey, man. Let's see if Shane Hughes got back to me. No, he didn't. Okay. Maybe he was talking to somebody else. Please forgive me, Shane. Here we go. The drivetrain. I love that. For warming up, he says, I found that I put my cruiser on my trainer for 15 minutes to get my blood flowing and gets the legs working. Awesome. That's great. You have done what most people don't, which is find what works for you. That's awesome. Thank you. Spencer Rose, a 9X. Cool. I remember being a non-expert. It was a long time ago. All right, what else? Lazari. Lazari has a couple questions. Which one do you want? Oh, and also Savage. Savage Metalworks has one here. Lazari says, how do you get faster in the turn section? Three things, Lazari. 3 ways to get faster in turns. Number 1, practice your mechanics of the turns. Do flat ground turns. Okay. Do figure 8 turns. Work on your mechanics. Number 2, go out to the track. Practice all 3 lines, right? Inside line, middle line, outside line. Number 3, get a partner and practice passing each other, right? Inside dive, mid-low, and a high-low, right? So easy to do, so easy not to do, so you might as well do it. All right, Savage says, 2635 expert here, coming back from a shoulder injury, first real injury riding since I started. Any advice on how to get back into the game mentally, physically? Okay, so I would say number 1, physically, right? Like you got to take care of yourself. I would say that goes for anything in life, right? all great high performers, whether you're an athlete, a businessman, an Elon Musk, anybody, like you have to have good health. So as a racer, you get injured, do what you need to do to physically be at 100%, right? Whether that's, physical therapy, and then being compliant at home, avoiding things that will irritate that shoulder or that injury. And then more importantly, making sure you're doing your exercises to strengthen and get that shoulder feeling better, right? Stronger and reducing that swelling, whatever you need to do. It's all about being compliant with whatever your either medical, sports physios, chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists. Be compliant with what these guys prescribe. I think that's really important. I'm a really, really compliant patient when it comes to, anything physically. Physical is without health, man. It's hard to do anything great, right? Whether it's it doesn't matter what you're doing, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're trying to be great physically, or you're trying to be a great businessman, an entrepreneur, anything, right? If you do that, Savage, you take care of the physical body, then mentally by default you're going to feel better. You're going to gain that confidence. Now the mental part's really tricky because I deal with a lot of athletes that are suffering mentally, emotionally from crashes that were really hard on them. Okay. And so, one of the things that you want to consider is, what's your mental state, right? When you crashed, did you label it? Okay. If you labeled it, then there's going to be some resistance when you get back on the track, right? You're going to try to avoid getting hurt. You're going to try to avoid crashing. And what that's going to do is it's going to hold you back. You're not going to be as aggressive. So the thing is that you want to focus on, building up your confidence in a progressional way. Get comfortable riding the bike again. Okay. And then number 2, get comfortable with riding the track again. Then number 3, get comfortable with riding the track with others around you again. Okay. And then once you get there, then you can start focusing on racing again. And just work on that progression. You might be able to pull that off in one day or one weekend, or it might take you 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know. Everyone's different. Go through that progression, check off all those boxes, and then, take a step back, reevaluate, and see how you're doing mentally. Again, everything is state dependent. So, if you're just joining us now, Savage, and rewind back, or maybe go back to other live videos that we've done, again, focusing on or developing an ideal performance mind state is key, and basically anchoring that ideal performance mind state and triggering that anchor, getting into your ideal performance mind state will override anything else that may be contributing to any kind of derailment of what you're trying to accomplish emotionally, mentally. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Luke says, "What's up, coach?" Jacob James says, "Getting out smooth." Let's see, what is he talking about? Let's see. Days says, "Great show and topic tonight. Thank you, coach. Everyone hit the like button to help out the channel grow." Hey, man, it's all good. BMX is so small. I don't know if this channel is going to be anything that's going to be like 20, 30, 40, 50,000 subscribers, anything like that. But, I would say at the end of the day, if you guys are finding value, go check out bmxtraining.com. That would be awesome. That would be fantastic. Otherwise, I would say growth is cool. It's not important. I would say one of my major things that I want to do is I just want to make sure that everyone that shows up and watches gets value, right? If you guys can get value, that means the most to me, right? If there's 20 guys here that get value, that's way better than having 2,000 likes. Does that make sense? But I appreciate the gesture. Days, you're awesome. Here we go. Snowman 2727, what would you prioritize on a regular basis? Chiropractic or massage therapist for overall better health? Ooh, great question. I have a what do they call those? Kook doctors? What do they call them? Woo woo specialists. I have a chiropractor that does applied kinesiology, and he does some pretty crazy things. He's worked. He's a guy that's over here in San Diego, Dr. Brett Smith. He's worked on guys like Tyler Brown, Jason Richardson, Mike Day, Jill Kittner, a host of other athletes that were local here in the BMX area. Been friends with him a long time, and he does a lot of cool, weird stuff, and I love it. I love his work. I see him about once a week, and I'm finding that if I see him, I'm so dialed that I really don't even need a massage. Don't get me wrong. I love massage. And I would say at the end of the day, the important thing that you should do is for any kind of sore muscles or recovery is invest in a foam roller and do foam rolling exercises. Okay. You could do that on your own and do that every night or every morning. You could do that before you ride and after you ride. And if you don't do it after you ride, you could do it before you go to bed, right? Roll out your glutes, hamstring, quads, calves, back, lower back, all that stuff. I like massage too. Nothing beats an awesome sports massage, right? It's so serene, right? It's a full reset, but that gets expensive. A good massage therapist here in San Diego, you're talking $100 for an hour. Chiropractic work, I love chiropractic work because I don't want to do any lifting or any sprinting or anything dynamic where I have to be aggressive or repetitive with anything out of alignment, right? So I value the chiropractic work. If you need to choose between one or the other, get the chiropractic work, invest in a foam roller. I would say that would be the way to go. Thank you very much. All right, I'll take one more question and then we're going to call it a night, guys. Let's see here. We got a couple questions here. Video games says, hey, I practiced gates on the track today. Awesome. You should have more subscribers, he says. Yeah, it's all good. Not everyone wants to learn. Not everyone wants to be a part of this community. It's all good, man. As long as you guys are finding value, that's great. Okay. Jacob James just threw out a comment. He says, I believe for meditation purposes. Who are you talking to, Jacob? Okay, hold on. Do you guys listen to sounds like beta, delta waves? I stumbled on this last night. He says, I believe for meditation purposes. Oh, dude, Jacob, you want to go esoteric on me? Yeah, let's go a little bit esoteric. I love this kind of stuff. Yes, so there is something called binaural beats, okay? And basically what that does, it actually influences your brain to operate at a desired frequency. So you can get an app on your phone, put a pair of headphones on and listen to the binaural beats. Now, it's an instrument. And so, is it going to help you for racing? Yeah, maybe, maybe not. But here's the thing. We'll kind of talk about that, and then we'll kind of talk about meditation, because meditation is something that it's on the forefront of athletes that are just absolutely destroying it, right? Because at the end of the day, we talk about it all the time. It's all about getting into the state of flow and being able to shut off that monkey mind, right? That inner voice that may be giving you unresourceful advice or suggestions, right? There's a technical term for that. That's actually called the default mode network, or otherwise known as the DMN. The default mode network is pretty much part of the egoic system, and the way that you can, it always likes to be on. Like mine's on, but it's not. It's really, really quiet right now, okay? Because I'm in a state of flow. But what the DMN does is that when it's really activated, it just won't shut up, right? It will say a bunch of unresourceful stuff. It's always looking for negative stuff. It's always looking for threats. It's always looking for things that are wrong. You're a human if you deal with that, right? That's the default mode network's job. It's to look after you, right? It's to hold you back, right? And that's part of our circuitry that goes way back in the beginning of man, right? We were designed to survive in the jungle and fight for our food. We don't have to do that anymore, for the most part. Now we're like fighting for ribbons and fighting for positions to move up from intermediate to expert in BMX racing. Who would have thought that a couple 100,000 years ago? So, in an effort to suppress, I don't know if suppress is a good word, but to quiet the default mode network, that inner voice, meditation, right? Meditation, which is just basically closing your eyes and focusing on your breath. And when thoughts come in, you just always come back to the breath, right? You practice that memory, that muscle memory, that brain muscle of going back to the breath. So you're sitting there, eyes closed. I'm not going to do it right now. Or maybe I will. Eyes closed, focus on my breath. If a thought comes in, come back to the breath. Don't judge the thought. Let the thought come in one ear and out the other. Come back to the breath. Okay, and so how is this even helpful for BMX racing, Greg, you may ask? At the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're trying to replicate the same thing, because when you're in staging, right, and you're starting to potentially get in a fight or flight mode, and you're seeing competition, you're hearing clips, there's dust, there's, the stager behind is calling moto numbers, the person in the chute's calling people to come up, you hear the cadence, you hear the announcer, there's a bunch of stuff going on, and what you're trying to do is you're just trying to stay in the present moment and keep the default mode network suppressed or quiet. That way you could be in the flow and operate at your optimized full potential. That's it. So meditation is an awesome tool in an effort to enhance your mental capacity to deal with stressful situations. Now, what does this have to do with binaural beats? Well, binaural beats will also help slow the brain. It'll help slow that brain down a little bit. Unfortunately, going from, for the most part, like right now, my brain's in alpha, right? I'm stimulated, I'm ready to go. Just below that is beta. And then anything below that, you're kind of going into a sleep state, theta state, which is down here. And that's going to be a sleep suggestive state, right? That's like a meditative state. And then below that, you're in delta, you're out, you're sleeping, right? So you got delta, which is, a deep sleep, theta, right above that, which you're kind of like coming out of sleep or you're going to sleep. Okay, that's theta, right? When you wake up or before you go to bed, or if you take a nap, or maybe you ate a bunch of turkey on Thanksgiving dinner and you're feeling lethargic and you're going in and out, you're in theta state. Above that, beta, and then alpha, right? There's another one above that, which is gamma. And that one's pretty crazy, but we're not going to talk about that, but that one's pretty crazy because that's like, borderline enlightenment. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much, man. This has been great. There's more questions coming in, more shout outs. Jeffrey, Luke, let's see, JP. Hey coach, thanks for the channel every week. And it is a while since you've posted on your road channel. Yeah, I've been busy. I've been moving. Like right now, you guys can't see it, but I got boxes around here. We're doing a slow move, and we've already purchased a house, but we're not going to move in for another 4 to 6 weeks because we're renovating the kitchen, and the kitchen is demolished. It was built in the 1980s, and dude, we're going to update the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. But that's not your problem. I'm doing my best, man. I'm doing my best to maintain. So I'm really grateful for that comment. Listen, I was tired today, and I just made sure that, I thought about you guys. I'm not even being corny here. That was my motivation to take action and get this show going. I would say probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks, especially move week, I'm probably not going to be here. But when the racing picks up in the early summer and in midsummer, for sure we're going to be here every week. What other questions or comments do we have coming in? Here we go. Here's a comment from Thunder Midget. What do you think about USA BMX canceling Saturday practice at the Kingman National coming up? It's good or bad, especially for the out-of-town folks. Yeah, that's a tough one, man. You know, at the end of the day, it's all about having behavior flexibility and just, you know, dealing with the circumstances, right? Like, great champions are always good at dealing with the circumstances, right? So that goes back to knowing your outcome. If you know your outcome, right, and maybe perhaps, you know, you want to do well at Kingman at this race and they're not going to have practice, well, then practice, show up Friday and practice well. Get as much practice as you can in, have some behavior flexibility. Don't think about that. Think about the outcome. Maybe it's a blessing that you get less practice. You're going to have more energy in the tank. It's all about reframing stuff, man. It's all about having behavior flexibility and the ability to just keep moving forward, right? Keep moving forward. You don't want to get stuck in your thinking. Keep moving forward. That being said, you guys keep moving forward in your evening or in your day if you're in Australia. Keep moving forward in your week. Keep training. Keep showing up week after week, day after day. Don't miss anything, right? Don't let your emotions dictate what you're going to do that day. Do it no matter what. All right, guys. So have a great week. Again, if you guys enjoyed this show, make sure you guys leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Share it to someone else. You know, our mission here is to help out as many younger and BMX racers all across the world. If we could pull that off, racers will be retained. They'll stick around. If they stick around, then there's more people at the track. If there's more people at the track, man, it's all about community, and the more people that are there, it's just, it fuels our energy when we show up to the track and there's people there, right? Cool. You guys have a good week. I'll see you guys next week. Check out bmxtraining.com. Keep working hard. Keep the rubber side down. Be easy on yourself.